Well, Antonio, I'm so excited to be here with you today.
Thank you.
We will be talking about the Vaughan International Film Festival shortly. But can you give us a sense of who you are as a person?
Who am I as a person? I'm definitely a creative person. I've always been creative my entire life, whatever capacity. And I love film, and I think those two just made a lot of sense. I started this festival with a friend of mine 13 years ago, and the idea behind it was to create opportunities for emerging artists. We had been to a number of film festivals ourselves, running our own production company for a decade, and we felt like the film festival experience wasn't what we expected. A lot of times I feel like, and this is not discounting the big ones, right? Like we hadn't gotten into TIFF when we had first started out, so we didn't get to experience what like a reputable festival could offer and like the kind of exposure your film could get. A lot more indie films across the US and Canada. And a lot of times we were being sold on these elaborate packages, like, you know, spend X amount of thousands of dollars and we'll get you your own publicist or your own after party and all these amazing things. And a lot of times we would go and like the publicist, there was no publicist. The after party that was supposed to be exclusive for our film was in like the basement of like some random warehouse, and there was no one there. They had a popcorn machine as like their snacks or food for the guests.
That's not
like,
nice.
So we had some, again, that's just a couple of the bad experiences that we had, and then we felt like there was not really much return on investment. Like obviously your hope when you go to festivals is to get a return on investment for your film, so like a distribution deal.
Right.
I think it's less likely with short films. I think short films I look as more of a business card to say this is what I've already done.
Yeah.
Let's start talking about what a feature looks like. So we thought, and that's why we started it with shorts, because our whole thought process was if we can focus on short films, we can really truly support those emerging filmmakers who are looking to get into the feature television world, so on and so forth.
Is that what you find the starting place generally is? People start with shorter ones and then go into long. Well, it costs more too, right? As you go into the longer productions.
I think that's a big piece, is that it costs a lot more money. It's more affordable. Not to say that some of these short films don't have some pretty massive budgets. I mean, we did a Q&A one year for a filmmaker. The film was Nimmer. It was the filmmaker's name is Leven Van Hove. I think they won Best Film that year. It was a film from Belgium. And we were doing a Q&A, we were asking what the budgets were. I think the budget for his film was like over 100,000, like 150 or something like that. Yeah, for a short.
How long was his film?
It was under 20 minutes for sure.
Right.
It had like a Sin City. Have you ever seen the movie Sin City? It had that kind of like look to it. So the VFX on it were phenomenal. But the thing is, what I learned about is like a country like Belgium really supports their filmmakers. There's a lot of grant opportunities there, a lot of subsidies. I know. So then these films, and I think Belgium has won 3 times at the festival now.
Wow.
I think they've won the most amount of like best short films at VFF. And a lot of them have translated because, again, government gets behind them and supports these creatives, and that usually translates them going off and doing some bigger projects. But yeah, that's. I feel like I went off. Like you asked about me, and somehow it got back to like.
No, this is great. These are a lot of things I want to ask anyway. I do want to check when you say creative. You identify as a creative. What does that mean to you?
Being creative to me is being vulnerable.
That's very uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's definitely one way to put it. And I always thank the filmmakers who submit to VFF and allow us to screen their films, because the film is an extension of them and a message that they're trying to deliver, and they're giving us the ability to spread that message. So it's a very vulnerable place, right?
Yeah. Actually, the short film I'm working on, it is about my own journey. So yeah, it's very personal.
So the fact that you're creating it, you're spending time and energy doing that, you're bringing on a team that's going to support you in the creation of it, and then you're going to submit to a festival, and we have the ability, we're lucky enough to screen that and show the world your work. We don't take that for granted. We definitely don't take that for granted, and having the ability. So to answer your question about being a creative, it's about like exploring yourself, being comfortable with like the exploration of who you are, and showcasing that to the world through the power of film.
Like running naked. It's
like 100%. No, it's even you're even more vulnerable than running naked. I think we're past that. I think we're past running naked. It's like you're showing everything. I think you're actually showing your soul more than anything, right? You're digging in something that's more than surface level, right?
Oh yeah. True.
So it's naked on the inside and out, I guess, if we're gonna put it one way.
Well, you mentioned earlier that you started the festival 13 years ago at a tender age of 27.
Oh my God, I don't know. I'm 40 now, so if we do the math, yeah. Yeah.
And 10 years of production company before that? So you started when you were just a teenager,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah. So we started. So the production company was like there wasn't. It wasn't really like the production company stopped and the film festival started. There was a transition period.
Okay.
So I joined my previous business partner. He had the production company, and I joined him working as an actor.
Okay.
I think I came on board in 2004, and I was acting in a number of their short films. So it was an interesting time in my life because like we not to use it as an excuse, but we graduated. It was called the double cohort that year.
Okay.
So they got rid of grade 13 in high school.
Oh,
So it was
I
grade 12
remember
and
that.
grade 13. So you would have been grade 13. We would have been grade 12.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah, because you're a year
remember
older
enough.
than me, right?
I am older. When I came to Canada,
How
I
old were
had
you?
to repeat. I just turned 17.
Okay, so then
2001. I had to repeat grade 11. So I have to take, I thought I spoke English because I've studied English for years before in China. And I got here and realized, nope, I did not speak English because I turned on the TV. I was like, holy fuck, I have no idea what they're saying. It's way too fast.
yeah.
So I did have to take 1 semester of ESL, English as a second language. And then they bumped me. They're like, yep, you're good. They bumped me into English 11. So I went from, hello, how are you, to Shakespeare. Like, holy fuck.
Wow.
I was crying every single day after class, during class, especially after English class. I was like, I have no idea what this is. I'm going to fail, rest of my life going to the toilet. Yep, that's it.
So when did it come to a point where you felt comfortable with the English language? Like how long would you say that took?
2 years.
Yeah.
I was very quiet for the rest of my high school because I was observing more, knowing that I need to learn. I actually have the credit learning English by watching Friends.
By watching Friends.
Yes.
See, give a shout out to everyone out there. You can learn a lot about the English language by watching some of your favorite sitcoms.
Apparently, one member of the BTS, a popular Korean.
Yeah, I know BTS.
Oh, I didn't know.
So I had one of my old executive assistant, Julia, shout out to Julia, was like, you couldn't not know who BTS was if you're in this office.
I did not know. And then someone told me that one member of the BTS also said that he learned English by watching Friends. I was like, yeah, go Friends.
You're aligned with them. That's great.
Double cohort.
Yeah, double cohort. So we graduated. There's 2 grades. They got rid of grade 13. So we're the last ones to share 12 and 13. And it's interesting because for anyone who was born in 85 that had to go through that, shout out to like how challenging it was. Because I remember like mid-year, they would change the textbook on us.
Oh.
So you'd be learning a textbook in like,
Okay.
I don't know, math or science or whatever, history. And then they would take the textbook on and be like, well, here's the new textbook. Because they were figuring out how to condense 5 years into 4.
Okay.
So you were like the guinea pig of that whole process. And again, I'm not blaming that, but
Yeah.
I also could have taken high school outside of drama. I didn't take high school as serious as I should have, to be quite honest. I enjoyed high school. I just didn't take it, the academic part of it, as serious as I should have. With that being said, when I finished high school, I applied for a number of colleges. I got into none of them. And I'll be honest, I was super discouraged. But it's only for myself to be blamed about in regards to it because I didn't set myself up for success. And this is something I always say to the team is set yourself up for success best you can. So I didn't get into anything. And I heard this from a lot of people, like if you take the year off and you find work, there's a good chance you're not going to go back to school because you're going to start making money and it's going to be challenging to step away from that and then go to school for another 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
So I didn't listen to them, but I also didn't have a choice because I needed to work another year. Right. So I really was looking at the acting. I said, well, I don't have to let this decide whether I want to pursue this or not.
Yeah.
So I went to a private acting school at Yonge and Bloor. I did that for about half a year. It's called Actors Network, which I don't think exists anymore. I thought they did a tremendous job in preparing you for the industry.
Okay.
And a lot of notable talents have gone there. Canadian Nev Campbell went there. Keanu Reeves went there. We actually, interesting enough, got a chance to see like some of their auditions and like demo reels and stuff like that. So that was cool. But while I was doing that, someone I went to high school with was creating these independent projects. I was making it. It was like a crossroads in my life. I was going to get an agent, or I was going to like pursue the indie film scene. And I said, well, let me get my feet wet before I decide to get an agent. So I connected with a friend of mine. Said, I know that you guys are like working on some projects. I mean, that's actually a funny story too. How I discovered them is I was with a group of friends and we were driving by. It was like Friday night. We were driving by. Anyone knows Hay Ho Mills, which isn't there anymore. But we were driving by there, and there were a group of people with like spotlights on a bridge.
Okay.
And we're like, what are these people doing? Right? Are they like investigating? Like, I don't know. I just didn't know what they're doing. It was really confusing because you're seeing all these like lights in like this dark section of like, this bridge and this forest. So we stopped and we decided to ask, and we realized it was people that we knew, and they were shooting a film. They were shooting a short film, and it was a Friday night. And I remember thinking in my head, I'm like going out, I don't know where we were going that day. We used to like go to a parking lot, like a Tim Hortons, and hang out and socialize and whatever. Nothing productive. But I remember like seeing them do that and being inspired by the fact that like, if I want to get into this industry, I can't be doing this. I need to be doing that. So it truly was a crossroads because it was a bridge and then it was a road. And we stopped and we talked to them for a bit, and I really took interest, and I said, yeah, I'd love to be a part of some of your future projects. So a common friend that I had that was on that project, I reached out to her. Shout out to Jackie, I don't remember what your last name is now, but it used to be Secluna. I reached out to Jackie and said, like, tell me a little bit more about these projects. She said you should audition for some of them. So I did. Ended up getting cast for a part, and then started working on those productions time and time again, to a point where I got interested in the behind the scenes more than being in front of it. I didn't like the idea of being in front. I liked the idea. I initially did, and then I was like, no, telling the story is a lot more interesting from behind the scenes.
Interesting.
And getting people to tell that story, who I think are a lot better than I am at performance, at the acting part of it, can help tell that story. And I found comfort in being behind the camera. I really did. I found a lot of comfort. I'm comfortable in front of it, but I found a lot of comfort being behind it and wanting to tell my stories. So we started co-directing projects together. I ended up directing my own film, short film, which was, I say short film, funny enough, the film was like 45 minutes. We were talking about what the ideal time was. That's way over the ideal time, probably why I didn't get into any festivals with it. But I really loved what that experience was. So we did a feature film at that point, which was released in 2010, called The Invaders Genesis, which actually got picked up by an American distribution company out of Florida.
Right. And
was available in Walmarts, Targets, Barnes & Nobles, Best Buys, everything. So we got support from the US market again, traveled for film festivals, saw what that experience was like, was disheartened by what that was like, and said, instead of complaining about it with all of our experience, let's start a film festival.
I love that attitude.
2011. Did 2 years of something called the Grand Social, which was an arts and culture event focusing on our own productions and the local community, with always having the intention of starting an international festival as soon as we could. And then 2013, that's when that happened.
Oh, wow. I'm so happy that you decided to do something about it, as opposed to, complaining, because complaining itself is not productive. Doing something is.
Well said.
Yeah. How much was your budget when you did your first
feature?
Short. And then feature.
Short, it was a no-string budget. Like, I was working electrical at the time, and my business partner at the time was working in a photo studio, and we put every single penny we had from our paychecks into that project, which I never regret to this day. Like, we invested anything we had. So our first short film, like, it was a no budget. We shot at his house, his parents' house. No actors were paid. We were also in our, like, early 20s at that point. So we just asked anyone. We utilized all the resources we had. If we had someone that wanted to be an actor, we asked them to be in it. If we had someone that had a location, we asked them if we can use their location. So we utilized all of our resources. And we did it for a lot of the films. Until we started getting close to that feature, we started putting money in post-production, bringing on a composer, bringing on someone to deal with the sound. Like, we really appreciated sound early on. I'm a huge advocate for sound in film. I'm a member of the motion picture sound editors, and that might be indicative of like why I'm a big supporter of. I see how hard they work and how, unfortunately, little recognition they get. So any opportunity that I have to spread the word about the importance of sound, I'll do it, like on this podcast right now. Did I even answer the question? What was the?
So no budget for
no budgets, no budget. The feature film, $10,000, nothing. That's nothing. $10,000, and we did. It's crazy. I think about it to this day. Like, we picked the worst genre to do our first feature. It was an action post-apocalyptic drama. I guess the post-apocalyptic part was smart because you could go to a lot of rundown warehouses and like abandoned buildings, and we had a lot of friends who, funny enough, had access to it. Shout out to Brian Gallagher, who helped us out shooting Welland for a big portion of that. But the fact is, it was an action film.
Yeah.
So it's like, when you don't have a budget, how do you navigate that? So again, we had to ask everyone we knew. The idea, I'm not going to get dive into the premise of it, but you're after a nuclear war. How does the world adapt to it? And everyone, it's grass is overgrown, roads aren't paved the way they are now, so everyone's getting around in ATVs and dirt bikes. And thankfully enough, I had a lot of friends who had ATVs and dirt bikes, and I'll remember that this is like. if there's ever a film down the road, shout out to like this film if it ever gets made. Not necessarily about me, but about like the story of VFF and how like we created this thing out of nothing. There was this one moment where we're doing the feature film. Like I said, the film's called The Invaders Genesis. I was in King City. And so I just want to get you like an idea. And this is just a reminder to anyone who's hustling out there, trying to bring their dreams to life.
Yeah, me too. Here.
Well, this story should help. So I worked electrical. So electrical, anyone who's worked in the trades, you have to be on the job site by 7 o'clock in the morning. So you're getting up by 5:30, freshening up, getting ready, and then your job sites aren't always close, and then you drive it down there, right? So I would finish at 3 o'clock. I would use my entire lunch breaks to call cast and locations to confirm their availability. Then I would finish at 3 o'clock and I would drive to King City because a lot of the shooting was in King City. Shout out to Paul Tomlinson for helping us, giving us his property to shoot in. We would drive to King City and myself and my previous business partner would set up. So we'd set up the lights and everything. He would finish from the photo studio. I'd finish from electrical. We'd get there and we'd start setting up all of our lights, running extension cords. We had like no crew. It was us. And then once we were done, the cast would show up. And the cast would show up, I don't know, let's say like 5, 6 o'clock, depending if it was a day scene, we wanted them earlier. If it was a night scene, we'd wait a bit. But we would be ready to go and we'd be like in the middle of this forest, getting ready. We had our generator running, everything. And then we'd have to have friends come up with like our ATVs and dirt bikes. So,
Wow.
So a friend of mine at that time had access to a large pickup truck with a trailer on the back. So it was a pickup truck with a trailer, but this night we just had the pickup truck. It was a flatbed. And I remember everyone had somewhere to be the next day. Everyone except for, I mean, I had somewhere to be too, but clearly I bit the bullet and did what I had to. Everyone left. And it's also my fault because people probably asked to stay a bit later. I was like, it's okay, guys, you got an early day. You're doing me a favor. And it starts pouring. And I have to get these ATVs onto this flatbed, like onto the back of this pickup truck.
Oh my gosh.
So I just remember it's pouring rain and I had a ramp, like a piece of plywood.
Yeah.
And I was trying to push the ATV up on this plywood. And I just remember pouring rain. I felt like I was in Platoon. Like it's pouring rain and I'm just so stressed because it was such a long day. And I knew I had to be up at 5:30 the next day. And I'm trying to roll this ATV up. I get the first one up, then I go to do the second one, it's like twice as heavy. I get up halfway and it rolls back and it rolls on me. Remember, it's still pouring rain. The ATV rolls back on me. I'm laying on my back, staring at the sky. Now I feel like I'm in Shawshank Redemption. It's pouring on me. This ATV's rolled half on my leg, and I'm staring up, and I'm going to swear, part of my French, I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, this is not, and I'm like, this is not worth, like, what am I, like, I'm not seeing any benefit of this, like financially, like I have to still work in the trades because I can't pay my bills. And I'm just staring and it's pouring. And I just remember I probably laid there for like 25 minutes. It was like a moment I'll never forget. I'm just reflecting on like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, is this worth it? And then and as I'm reflecting, I'm like, yeah, this is worth it. These are the stories. Yeah, these are the stories that you hear. Well, you also listen to stories of the challenges that Spielberg had to go through, George Lucas, and what he had to deal with Star Wars. My challenge is not even close to that. So I'm just like, if they could do it, like, get up, push that ATV up, close the hatch of it, shut up, drive to where you have to, drop the ATV, because I had to drop the ATVs off, drop the pickup truck off, pick up my vehicle, go home, take a shower, get ready for work the next day. And I knew I was going to be back in King City that next day too.
Oh my God. And your leg is still real.
And my leg's still real. My leg's still real. Yeah. Yeah. When you're frustrated like that, you're numb. Even if you're losing a leg at that point, you're not even paying. You're just like, I just got to get home and I got to figure out. But that's a moment I'll never forget, is that ATV just rolling back on me. And also me saying like, I'm alone. And I felt alone in that moment. Like, why did I let everybody, like, why did I not? And I've come a long way in my self-growth of asking people for help. Like this festival doesn't get built without relying on a team. And I've always been an advocate for team and supporting the team and compensating the team the best that you can and building that team with you, because you can't do it alone. And my team knows this. Anytime I have an opportunity to celebrate them and how much hard work they've put into building this, I do it. I take every opportunity that I can. So yeah, that was a question about being a creative. And we went to like me laying in like mud with like pouring rain and an ATV.
I love it.
Another important piece about why I started the festival, or why like the importance of it is, and we've actually, a shout out to Laura Mirabello, who sits on I'm doing a lot of these, but they people deserve their flowers, right? She was someone that we brought in on our advisory board that provided us with a new perspective on our mission and vision statement. So I really wanted to identify what our mission and vision was. And I felt like that whatever our previous one wasn't really speaking to the core reason of why this exists. And I didn't realize that your mission really and vision needs to be aligned with like your source. Like, why did you even start this? So we spent, I don't know how many weekends, Saturdays in a row in this very office. And she did such a good job. She brought all these like giant white sheets, and we put them all on the boards, and we did like a brainstorming session where she really, it was so therapeutic too. I felt like I was in a therapy session because she was getting me to explore the start of VFF and even the production company and a whole bunch of things. And as we dove into it, we identified like what the true source was I can speak from my perspective. And what I found working in all these other industries, whether it's the trades or whether it's, I worked in distribution. I was head of fixture coordinating for all the Toys R Us's across Canada at one point before I did the electrical. What I found in all these places is like there are creatives that are in those spaces that really want to explore their creativity. Yeah. And you still can while you're doing that, but they felt like it was like a daunting task for them. So what we did this really, so we pulled out this whiteboard and we did this really amazing sketch where we showed a person who's like young, who's got all these like incredible creative ambitions. Yeah. And as they get older, there's a cloud that starts to form over their head. Oh. And as they get older, they get to a point where the cloud's completely covering over their head. Yeah. And their creative outlet is diminished. Yeah. So we said if this festival, I always thought if this festival could open up that creative outlet again, then we can allow the light to shine through. So with doing all that and spending all these weekends in here, we ended up coming to the conclusion that our vision statement is to illuminate the creative spirit in all of us. Mission is to do it through the power of short film.
Why short film?
Well, we talked about it earlier. We feel like that's the true stepping stone.
Like you want to make it easy.
Yeah, if we're gonna make that first step so daunting, like you're less likely to pursue it. And like really the goal of the festival is to encourage as many creatives to pursue this industry, because then the industry wins, right? And we talked about this earlier. Shout out to all of these guilds south of the border that have opened their doors to us, MPSCs being at the forefront of that and really welcoming the film festival with open arms. I presented at their awards 2 years in a row, but for 3 years there. And we get to present the Student Film Award, the Verna Fields Award for student film, but sound in student film. And they just understand the importance of getting behind not just us, but festivals like ours, because we are really going to support that stepping stone. We're going to be that like support system that can help foster those young emerging artists through the channels. And we do it not just through our competition, but we do workshops, we do seminars through the festival. A lot of things that are based on education to help support them and encourage them to want to pursue this. Because at the end of the day, if we can create that opportunity, then I hate to say it, but we're having talent shift towards this industry and not another, which helps the industry as a whole.
For sure. And I love earlier you created this visual of the clouds getting bigger and bigger. That's definitely the case, because the longer you have worked, the longer you have invested in a particular field, the less likely for you to leave that field.
That's why.
Because opportunity cost of leaving that field gets higher and higher.
And then how do you make that sacrifice then? It's harder. So I guess for us, and you're a perfect indication of that. Like we talked about, you came from the corporate world.
I did.
And you made this huge shift, which I'll say this though, the advantage of you coming from the corporate world is a huge advantage over a lot of creatives who haven't, because you have the business acumen there, right? Yeah. That's missing. We talk about this with creatives all the time, is like there's a business side of it, don't lose sight of it. This is, we used to use a term that I'm pretty sure I coined it, but someone in the festival did, where we would say turning your artistic dreams into career realities, which is still timely right now and it's still relevant, but we stop using the word dream, because dream makes it seem like it's this superficial thing. The industry, and I'll talk about film and television specifically, is not a dream. It's a career, right? And it can fuel a creative passion that you have. But as soon as we start using the term dream, it creates something that's a little too far-fetched. Like it's out there, it's a dream. It's more attainable than it being a dream.
You can do it now.
It's a career choice. It really is a career choice to be in the creative field, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I find too when I first came. Well, when I came to this field, I guess I was still testing the waters. This is something I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to make films. I've always done things on the side as hobby level. But when I left corporate and started to be, I guess, from getting my toes wet to getting knee deep into the water of creatives, the first thing I find was it's really hard to find people who are good, as in talented, creative, and reliable at the same time. And I was like, why is this so hard? It's like the first few work I did, and there were people who ghosted me. There were people who didn't, just didn't show up, and they didn't do things that they said they were going to do within time frame that said they're going to do it. Coming from corporate, those are
that never happens.
Sanitary. Yeah. Like it's a table stake. Yeah. Like if you can't be reliable, yeah, you can't, like you don't get to play in this sand field. Like I didn't even think that it was a check mark that
it was automatic.
People have to meet. Yeah. But coming to creative, I was like, holy shit, are you gonna show up when we'll agree time? And then so by the time I found a group of people who are good, creative, reliable, consistent, timely, communicative, I'm holding on to these people because like at the end of the day, you have this tribe of people that you can work with, and there's plenty of work, there's plenty of projects. We all have our own, not dreams, projects they want to make happen, and you just get to continue to collaborate and work with the people. And I learned so much from my videographer here who's off camera and other people
Shout out to Siddharth.
Hello. and many others that I work with as well. Like because you learn their process because their perspective is different than yours. And unless you are willing to be here and to work with someone else who's very different than you, then you don't get to learn that. But anyway, regardless of who you're working with, you're growing. I learned from people who stood me up as well.
Yeah.
Right? Because
so what's the lesson learned there?
I'm developing my instinct on who I should spend time with, because I feel when you have in business, there's an intuition too. Like I used to work on business deals, like mergers and acquisitions and partnerships, business development. You get a sense, once you have been through a few, you get a sense at the early stage of a partnership, whether this is going to work out or will things happen that it does not. So same as in the creative field that I'm seeing here, I'm getting a better sense earlier on whether this is a person who's reliable, who's going to show up, and I can assess that by how they communicate. I'm
so if you were going to give a wish list,
that more.
If you're going to make a list for somebody, you would say like
what, to work with?
Yeah, no, like what things do you look at? So you just mentioned right now, like it's their communication.
Are they responsive?
Yeah.
Yeah. So within communication, there's a few things I look at. Are they responsive? If I send them an email, is it going to be responded within timely wise?
24 hours. If we give more than that, I don't think that's right. I say it to my team all the time, 24 hours. Get back to you in 24 hours.
Yeah. So it's this email, text, regardless. Yeah. So I would prefer within a few hours. But I do not expect immediate because everyone's busy. But 24 hours is a good one. And how do they communicate? Are they courteous? Are they, can they convey something in a diplomatic manner? Especially when there are things that go unexpected ways, like it's important to stay calm and address the issue as opposed to being aggressive in some way. You're smiling, so I feel like
oh, I've dealt with that.
We've all worked with that. So communication is a huge aspect. And how does it work? Are they creative? If I see their portfolio, am I impressed with their work? Because I've seen portfolios where I was like, I probably not there yet.
Yeah.
Maybe at some point when the person develops a bit more experience, maybe then. So having a portfolio is really important. I'm actually just developing my own show reel right now. Nice. I've always just had individual piece of work, but now it's like, maybe I should put that together for future partners, so then they can get a sense of how my style is before they make a decision. It's a very helpful mutual decision, right? Because it's not just me interviewing someone else. It's two ways.
Yeah.
And
that's what collaboration is.
Yeah. And that's, yesterday I was speaking about brand in front of a group of people, and having a strong brand, and you talk about VFF brand as well, having a strong brand is really helpful because it attracts people who are aligned with what you stand for and repels people who are not, right? And that's really useful because I don't want to waste my time with people who are not really aligned with my values, because that partnership will not work out.
Yeah.
So when I first started, not even in the creative field, but when I started working as a professional, I always wanted to please everybody because part of culture, I'm used to being trained to say yes and being smiley and being helpful. But it doesn't really serve me in the sense that I have scrubbed so much of my real personality to conform to what I think other people expect of me.
Oh my God, put that on a t-shirt. Put that on a t-shirt. Say that again, you conform to...
I conform to what I think other people expected of me.
And then what does that do to you?
No good.
Yeah, no, but you coined it. You said you conform to other people's expectations, and then you diminish your own person.
I scrubbed my own personality from who I really am.
That hits hard.
So we should talk about that more. Yeah. So I spent the past 18 months to unscrub myself, to kind of allow myself to grow back to how I really am as a person, what I'm interested in, the way I talk. So that's why I swear now, because I used to swear, but I always have to present myself a certain way while I was in corporate. So I no longer do that. A lot more off the cuff, just candid. I have a very low laughing point, so I'll burst into laugh at really inappropriate times during corporate meetings.
Are you at a funeral and you laugh?
Oh yeah, I'm definitely the giggler at the funeral for sure. So now I'm more, and with the help of my amazing creative agency, I'm now more comfortable in my own skin. And going through a branding exercise with them was so helpful, like a brand discovery process. You mentioned your friend Linda, was it Linda, that were helping VFF in mapping out the things, the projects you have done for you to figure out.
Laura.
Laura, sorry. Yeah. In terms of figuring out that vision and mission. For me, I went through this creative agency. It's like Mad Men, right? The group of people, that's what they do. And I went into this exercise thinking, this is who I am, this is what I bring to the table. And they came out to say, no, actually, what you think you bring to the table is a tiny fraction of what you actually bring to the table. And I was like, fuck.
See that?
Cool.
See that?
It's good to know.
Yeah. A
lot of the things that I didn't own because I was, again, it didn't conform to the image that I thought I need to portray. So now it's like, forget about that. Yeah. I'm just being myself. And I'm not going to do something just to please someone. Obviously, I don't start a relationship. I don't aim to inflame relationship to start with. It's always assuming good intentions. But I no longer go all of my way to please someone just to please them, because
they got to earn that too, right?
Yes,
yeah, they got to earn that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a conversation very similar to this yesterday. A friend of mine, Sergio, and we were talking about being people pleasers, and like both of us being super like it's our whole life. Being
Are you?
Pleasers. No, I'm not now. And I'm firm. I'm not like. I go above and beyond for people that support not just me, but the organization, because they have a vested interest in something that I care about.
Yeah.
But I used to give way too much of myself in the past. And it's not even about like it bit me in the ass or anything. It's just more about you can only extend yourself so much before like you're burnt out. And then the best advice I ever had was, funny enough, one of my ex-girlfriends. She said, your energy is not unlimited.
That is true.
And I thought you're always going to have this energy. You could do as much. Like, again, if I explain to you what that day was like when the ATV fell on me, I was shooting out in the woods. I was on a job site, 35 stories high, like running core line. For any electricians I know, we were running core line and tying it down. Like, it was you went the two extreme dynamics, and you're just having to navigate and figure it out, right? Like, so it's just not about overextending myself, because now as I'm turning 40 this year, I feel it, and hence why I got my Bloom drink. Shout out to Bloom. Maybe Bloom's interested in sponsoring this podcast because it's helped me out so much. Shout out to Bloom. But yeah, it's like I'm looking at remedies like that to give me the extra boost that I need. So yeah, it's not expensive. So to circle back, you can only extend yourself so much. Where do you choose to do that?
Yeah.
And with what people,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So I'm a lot more selective on even who I just spend time with in general.
I find the same. So I'm a little bit older than you. I turned 40 last year.
A little bit. You're barely. We're like the same age.
But I feel that. I used to always have unlimited energy. I always had a lot of projects going on. My work has always been important within corporate, but there were always things I wanted to do, and I felt that I had energy to deal with all that. And in the recent few months, I feel like every day I get up, I go to bed. I get up, I go to bed. It's like, what happened during the day? Am I being intentional am I making progress on the things that I want to make progress on? Or did I just eat Cheetos and watch Netflix again, which is not a good use of my time.
I spent a lot of those days doing that. I spent a lot of days doing that.
So yeah, you're right. Absolutely. In terms of being intentional, choosing the people we spend time with, because we don't have more than 24 hours a day. We don't have the sharp vision, the focus for unlimited period of time. So we have to say no. And by saying no, we can say yes to the things that actually matters.
Yeah. Yeah, and you find that you end up saying yes to it, even though you can and you do, right? Like, I find that it's habitual, right? You surround yourself with good people that are going to inspire you. You want to only surround yourself with those good people. Like, again, I guess it's something you hear as you get older. Your like social circle gets substantially smaller, which is and people say it in like a negative way. You know, as you get older, your social circle gets smaller, and there's less people that you're like. All that means is that you're valuing your time more.
Yeah.
You're not spreading yourself out too thin. And the time that you're spending with those people is so much more valuable. And you create this habit of like, those are the types of people. And I hate, whether people want to take this out of context or not, like, what do you mean those types of people? It's like, we're just aligned. We're aligned.
Yeah.
It's a good use of my time, and I'm going to continue to find more people like that.
Yep.
And you said something earlier when you're first like, assessing a potential relationship, and you're looking at these things more in the creative industry, but I think we all do it in our everyday life, is like, do they align with certain things that are important to me?
Yeah. I'm very much into animal welfare, so like I foster animals. So I know I'm not going to get along with someone who just kicked the dog, right? So it's obviously not for me.
Not for you. I actually just had to put my cat down last week, 12 years old, Athena. Yeah, it was, which is, anyone who has a pet knows how hard that is, right? So
I'm so sorry. 12 is not that old. What happened?
No, it's issues with her pancreas. And then we got the blood results back. There was like, it was so off the spectrum that they said, no matter what you do at this point, the cat's not going to make it. So we probably want to allow her to leave this world in a better way. Like now, like the longer we prolonged it, the worse the condition was going to get. So, but a good friend of mine, Rob, shout out to Rob LaRusso, PSP Services. He actually, interesting, we talk every so often, and we were talking while I was going through this, and he and his family had to put down their cat as well. And he said like some of the best advice I've had in navigating that, because this isn't the first time I've lost a pet. And he said, the 12 years that you got with that pet is like compensates for the 2 or 3 days that are going to be really hard for you and your family through. Because like you always hear this, once you lose a pet, it's like, I never want to get another one. And it's like, no, that's the wrong thing to think about. How many amazing years did you have with that pet that like we can remember and you can recall and you can reflect back on when you're looking at your phone and so on and so forth. So yeah, I think it's and let's be honest, that ties into relationships too. It's like, if you value the relationship with somebody, you'll spend as much time as it takes to help fostering that relationship, right?
Absolutely.
It's interesting. I feel like in my 40s now, and even like my mid 30s to 40s, probably because I've really surrounded myself with like a really good group of people now, like amazing people, that I feel like these are the most rewarding years of my life. Although it's been like coming out of the pandemic and all, it's irrelevant. Like I feel the most fulfilled I've ever felt. Like wow. It's not even close. I felt the most fulfilled now that I've ever felt. Like this is my true calling, is to try to provide an opportunity for artists. That's where I feel the most comfortable being. I'm hoping, and I'm not hoping, but I know I want to get back into producing content, like my own content again. I'd like to get to that place again, but I need this to be running on all 4 cylinders before I can do that.
And how far do you feel you are to that vision?
One of your questions was 1, 5, and 10 years, and my response to that was I never like to put timelines on things, because if the pandemic demonstrated anything to us, it's that timelines are irrelevant. When, whether you believe in God or nature, whatever the case is, when there's a when there's a shift in the climate, you have to adjust accordingly. So I would like to be at a point where I could really start to open up a lot of those creative opportunities. I think sooner than later, I would like to, but I think realistically to start to do that more so than this, I'm probably looking another 5 years before that happens.
Let me reframe the question a bit. So what does running on all four cylinders look like to you?
Is having a team that I can touch base with to make sure that things are running well, but that I'm not dealing with the day-to-day. Because I'm engulfed in the day-to-day.
You have a team already.
Yeah, I have a team.
How much bigger, the team would need to be?
Yeah, I think, be honest with you, a lot of it is a lot of our team is part-time.
I see.
So we need full-time staff, and that comes with, we need financial support to do that, right? We haven't had as much government support as we'd like. Provincially, funny enough, we've got a lot more support than federally, so I'm hoping that there's a change there because we're doing something for the country, not just for the province.
Is this the Ontario Council of Arts or someone else?
No, I don't want to get started on the Council of the Arts, whether Ontario or Canada, and how they deem you being an artistic organization and some of their guidelines and being that what your board has to look like. There's a lot of things I don't agree with both Ontario and Canada Arts Council. They're doing great things. They're helping a lot of great organizations, but I don't think your board is indicative of you getting the funding or not. I think it should be the projects that you're demonstrating. What's the work that's being done, not necessarily who's behind the scenes doing it.
Right.
But yeah, that's a conversation for another podcast. I guess no, it's the Ontario government. It's the provincial government that's through experience grants. We've gotten some support there. We've gotten support in the past from Trillium as well. Two great grant bodies that support us. We get, interesting enough, we're lucky to be in the city of Vaughan because we get some municipals. We're always like to get more municipal support, but Vaughan has done a pretty tremendous job, especially as of the last few years and even navigating the pandemic in helping the festival grow. Shout out to Tourism Vaughan as well because they're a huge help in helping to build this thing. So it's I guess that's. I keep going off. Where were we on the initial question?
So if you were to say in terms of funding wise between the grants and private sponsors?
We're 70% private sponsorship.
Okay. And how, what's your overall level right now and where would you like it to be?
Our annual revenues are between $300,000 and $500,000 every year. We'd like to get to a point where we're doing $1 million a year so we can, again, hire the... It's funny because I say those numbers, and if I said those numbers 10 years ago, I'd be like, well, how do you not have a full-time staff? Do you know how much events cost to put on?
A lot.
You know how much the venue costs? You know how much events, the AV costs? All these things cost so much money, and then, you're only in a position to have one full-time staff, and we've got 6 part-time staff. And the part-time staff, I'll be honest, is pretty much acting like full. They're so good at what they do. They're so good with time management, and they're having their other full-time job and having to navigate this. But I would like to get to a point where we're at 4 or 5 full-time staff, where I feel again, I can branch out and do what I want to creatively.
Right.
And while this is still growing and listen, I'm someone that's helping to start this festival.
Yeah.
I'm not the person that's going to, and I'm not saying finish it. I'm not the person that's going to see it through to its, getting to its pinnacle. I don't think I'm that. I think I can, but I think that what's more rewarding for me is seeing other people do that and having them feel like they're a part of something really special, being VFF and seeing that through. If I get to watch people do that and live out their creative ambitions in helping. And it's not necessarily, listen, people think, it's filmmakers that want to be a part of this. That's not necessarily the case. It's people who have it in of themselves to want to help other creatives. That's really the recipe. Well, it's funny, as I'm saying that, me and Christina were talking about the other day, what are some of the common denominators, the common thread of some of our staff that has been with us for a long time. And it's interesting, I think that I might be exploring that right now. That might be it. I think it's that we all have this common desire to want to support creatives through this. And I love seeing the team explore that within themselves. So I'm hopeful that I'm going to put a team around me that's going to help get this to the next level, because there are individuals out there, and I've seen, especially with some of these younger individuals, what they're capable of doing and how they adapt to the technology and allow the technology to adapt to them and how they can leverage that and create so much more within a short period of time because they're leveraging technologies like AI and so on and so forth to our benefit and to the creative industry's benefit. So those are the people that I know are going to help lead the charge in taking this through that next chapter. And I'm glad that I was able to get it to that place. It's like handing it off, you know?
Yeah.
I always want to be involved. Don't misinterpret it. I always want to be involved. I want to be around it. I'd like to keep, you know, a close proximity to it. It's close to my heart. I mean, the bubble, for me, when I look at the bubble is like a heart, you know, in an interesting way. It's just formed a different way, but it's this talking film. Like if you look at our bubble, I guess we have them here.
Oh, yeah.
It's our talking film piece. Like I love the branding that we came up with. This is something that came from day one. And the idea behind it is our campaign for the longest time was #TalkingFilm. The power of watching a group of short films is usually you're walking out of that theater and you're socializing those various ideas within those shorts because you're exploring all these perspectives from different countries. Like last year was the first year in the festival's history we had one block of films and every single film was from a different country. So people go into this screening wanting to like be entertained, and they come out of it like, oh my God, I got to travel the world in these set of 8 or 9 short films. And it's all about giving them that creative outlet. So for us, they leave the theater, then they go to the networking event or after party, and they're socializing what they just saw. And whereas with one film, if you watch the film and you went to a festival, a feature, and then you walk out, if you didn't like it, you don't have much to say.
Right.
But I'm giving you 8, 9 opportunities to like other content that you want to talk about. Or even the comparison. Why I like this more than this for these reasons. Right? It's not about what's better or not. It's about getting the conversation. The more conversation we can have happen around film, the more it's going to stimulate creative minds to create.
Absolutely. And I love the diversity. It's almost like watching a bento box that you get to try different things.
Bento boxes. I want sushi right now.
I just made you hungry.
Teppanyaki right now. Yeah, I want it.
So 13 years. Can you tell me what is the most rewarding, biggest challenge, and a surprise?
I'll be honest, biggest challenge is staff. It's finding, like as much as I've celebrated a lot of those team members, it's finding staff that want to see this through longer than like being a part of it for a short period of time. Like we're lucky to be in a position where we've got some really key staff, but if we're going to grow this thing, we need more.
Continuity.
Yeah, we need to continue and we need more full-time staff. So the biggest challenge is staff, and like when I say staff, I mean like the affordability behind it, right? The most rewarding is most rewarding and surprising are actually in tandem. It's the student competition. I always saw the international competition as what was going to like drive the festival, which it is, but the student competition is growing immensely. And there are a lot of amazing creatives through the power of like being on their phones and creating on their phones and not being limited to having the money and the resources to film. Like we're literally shooting one angle of this interview with a cell phone, right? Like that's indicative of where the industry's went. So the fact that they have the power in their palm to create and we've started this. So the student film competition didn't start from year one. It started 2 years. By the second year it started at VFF, so by 2014 we started a student film competition, and we get almost 100 submissions every year from across the province of Ontario. There are a lot of schools that are building it into their curriculum. Well, curriculum is province-wide, so they're building it into their programming.
Okay.
Where their final assignment for communications technology or dramatic arts or media studies is to create a 10-minute short film for VFF.
So is this for high school only?
High schools only, yeah.
And only for Ontario?
Yeah, right now.
Okay.
Right now.
But there's
I think so.
To extend beyond
there's no
Ontario?
reason not to. Why would we limit creatives from having this opportunity to explore? We just, back to my challenge, we need more staff. We get more staff and we can have remote satellite locations where we can have an office, a West Coast office, maybe a Quebec office too. Like, I think we have the ability to do this nationwide.
I would love to see this nationwide. That would be
amazing.
Amazing.
It's growing. It's growing. If anyone is super interested in a position with the festival that's semi-part-time and helping us with the education initiatives, we're always looking. So it's a shout out to anyone out there that wants to help out with that part.
And should they reach out to you directly or someone on your team?
They can reach out to, they can reach out to me, Antonio at vaughanfilmfestival.com if they're interested. We are looking for that super passionate person who passionate about creative industry, but helping emerging artists and doing it through high schools. We're looking for that person to help us out with that.
And if someone from high school, whether it's a student or a teacher that want to get their school involved with this, do they also reach out to you?
They would reach out to education@vaughanfilmfestival.com.
Okay.
And then our education, it's actually our filmmaker talent coordinator that oversees that right now, but they deal with all the correspondence with student film competitions and questions that they might have. So I would email education@vaughanfilmfestival.com. And we're always looking for new schools. And the winner gets $3,000.
$3,000?
They get $3,000 towards the
great.
department that supported them.
Okay.
And then they also get, if you're a winning school, I think Ontario Cameras donate another $3,000 worth of rental equipment for their
Amazing.
production. So they get about $6,000 to continue to create their next project.
That means a lot.
Yeah,
That's not pocket change.
That's definitely
meaningful.
not pocket change. And we're blessed to have Ontario Camera and some of these partners align with us to help build this thing. So.
Well, let's talk about this year's festival. It's coming up in 2 months, less than 2 months.
Less than 2 months. Christina reminds me all the time at our meetings. I think yesterday she's like, we're 52 days away. I was like, stop giving me the countdown. I just need to know it's June 20th and where we are. I don't like, but it's also necessary for me to see the countdown.
Can you give us a sense of what to expect with this year's festival?
So we have 17 films from 9 different countries this year. We have an Oscar-nominated film in the lineup.
Oh my God, wow.
The film is called The Man Who Could Not Remain Silent. So it's awesome to have an Oscar-nominated film in the lineup this year. Some of the other films have been like Cannes and Sundance and BAFTA finalists as well.
Great.
But the international programming, our programming team does such a tremendous job. They literally they're in this same office for 2 weekends straight, and they have to watch all the films. Like I'm very diligent on like they're not watching it remote. They have to be in the room together, and they have to be
talking films.
Because the way I like to do it is a juried process. It's got to be unanimous when we decide on which films get into the festival, and the conversation needs to happen. Because the reality is, when people leave that theater, those same conversations are going to happen. So let's get ahead of it. Let's have the conversation here, see what comes from it, and sometimes a film that's very, oh my God, what's the word? Polarizing, is a good thing.
It is.
And then socializing why it's polarizing ends up getting them to consider the film into the festival. But if we don't have those conversations, and I know other organizations, they watch it from the comfort of their home, they're in their silos, you have a perspective on it, but it's important for you to hear what the other person's perspective is.
Absolutely.
Right? And it's a juried process. Like it's no different than, a jury deciding on a trial. Like it's the same thing, right?
Yeah. And I really agree on the polarizing part, because when I make something from a creator perspective, I would rather seeing either people loved it or hated it, or both from both sides. What's worse is if there's no reaction.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like, it was okay.
That would be the worst.
Yeah. And that's why you need to, and that's why I'm a strong believer in like, you have to see every film. Like you got to be in the program, you got to be involved in all the films.
Well, if you need more people on the jury.
Well, and listen, people say that, and then I'll say this. People say that, and then I'm like, you got to give up 6 days.
Yeah.
So a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then another Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And if you miss a day, you're removed from the programming team, because you can't, and we're not sending the films for you to remote to watch. I'm not saying you're doing it, I'm just saying this for anyone who thinks that it's like, as long as you can commit, and obviously there's a vested interest in this industry and all that.
But I can commit a year ahead.
You commit a year ahead? Good. That's good to know. I'll keep that in mind. Keep that in mind.
Wow, that's really cool. So 17 international films. That's for all 3 days?
2 days. And 1 day of student films, 13 films from 10 different high schools across the province of Ontario. Yeah. I think it's the most amount of high schools we've had, or one of the most, 10 different high schools across the province.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then for the award ceremony itself, I've never been to
Get ready.
Film
Get ready.
festival.
Black tie. It's a special night. So the programming is June 16th is our student competition. 17th and 18th are our international screenings, followed by after parties at Chop Steakhouse and Bar. Shout out to Chris Matos from Chop Steakhouse and Bar for opening their doors to us each and every year. And then our awards at the Terrace Banquet Center, and that's on Thursday, June 19th. And shout out to Rob, and Mary Lou for opening their doors to their venue to us. Listen, I did something last year that I never thought I would do before. I brought my vendors on stage at the awards.
Cool.
Like I brought the vendors. Like it's one thing to support the sponsors and all that, but these vendors have been working with me for like almost 10 years. Like we've been at the Terrace for, I want to say 7 years now. Because we even got them to cater the drive-in, which we should talk about the pandemic as well. We got them to cater food for the drive-in during the pandemic, just to keep them involved in it and to try to create as much of the awards atmosphere as we could. Because if you've tried the Terrace's food, it's phenomenal. So even if you're eating it from the comfort of your car, it's still really good. But yeah, we've got like our vendors are an extension of our team.
That's
so
great.
to not reward them for the amazing work that they've been able to help us with in supporting us and building the festival and being flexible with us on a lot of occasions, we're blessed to have the amazing vendors that we do.
So how did you survive the pandemic?
You know what? I think it's like, I never looked at it as a daunting time. I looked at it as what's going to present itself in this daunting time. Like I hate to say it, but if you look at it from a negative standpoint, you're going to sit in that lens. So it was like, how do we navigate this to the best of our ability? I was also dealing with a lot of other challenges. There were shifts in the organization at that point too. So that was probably that was a lot more pressure than just navigating the pandemic. But for me, it was like, what opportunities are presenting themselves right now? And I hate to say like you're leveraging an opportunity like that. No, if I did not look at it that way, you would not have a film festival. Dead in the water. Yeah, we wouldn't have VFF. We wouldn't be sitting here. We wouldn't have this amazing outlet for these emerging creatives. So for us, it was like, how do we keep this thing afloat?
Yeah.
How do we navigate it? What do we look at? And for us, it's corporate sponsorship, because I told you 70% of our revenue is corporate sponsorship. So we looked at what businesses would not be challenged in that climate. And connected with those businesses. And those businesses actually really opened up their arms to us and supported us more so than any other sponsor had done prior to in any other year.
Wow.
Because we had this real cool proof of concept, which was a drive-in. Yeah. And like, I'd been going to drive-ins my whole childhood. Most of the movies when I was a kid that I'd go see would always be in the summer. We would like never watch movies in the theater. I think the only movie I saw in the theater was in Buffalo. We saw Titanic when it came out. But outside of that, every movie I'd seen was in the drive-in when I was a kid. And I have vivid memories of Ghostbusters 2, as much as people don't like it. I absolutely love Ghostbusters 2. I love the whole Statue of Liberty scene and all that. I was watching Ghostbusters 2 at the drive-in with my family. And I remember watching the film and being like, I want to be involved in this in some capacity. Like, I love this. And it happened at the drive-in. So for me, it was paying homage to my childhood as well. So we brought a drive-in concept back, and we played the best of VFF. So what we did is we took our programming, because remember, the pandemic gets hit in March.
Yeah.
We close our programming by January 31st. So we already got our programming ready by February. But then the pandemic hits, so what do? Are we going to play that programming out? No, we rolled the programming over to the next year. Okay. And we played the best of VFF up until that point.
Nice.
We had all that content already, and we could reach out to a larger community that was looking for something to do as well. So shout out to City Hall and City of Vaughan for helping us navigate what the permits were like at that point. Because it was like, we were the only event that happened, I think us and one other organization were the only events that happened indoor or outdoor in that summer.
Wow.
And it was super challenging. Like, a lot of the restrictions were, not only did we have to have the people in their own vehicle, they couldn't get out of their vehicle other than reusing the restroom. The cars had to be spaced out by like 6 or 10 feet, which is in hindsight now wild. But yeah, that's how we had to do it. So there were a lot more legalities behind it, a lot more challenges behind it, but we figured it out. We were really successful that first year, to a point where we did it again, because I don't think any of us thought we'd be in it for 2 years. But by the second year, we said, no, now we got to activate the regular programming.
Yeah.
So we took that programming, we plugged it in, but we did something cool where every weekend was something different in the second year. So 2020 was just best of every week. Yeah. Every weekend. It was Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then the following year, in 2021, we had 4 different weekends. So one weekend we did like Sony Picks Flicks. So we played a famous Sony film, and because of our relationship with Sony Pictures, and then the precursor to that was a short film that introduced it, which when I used to go to theaters, you had a short film before your feature, which I'm, again, aging myself, but I love that idea. And because it introduced you to this world of shorts. So we'd play a short film that aligned up with that feature film. That was week 1. Week 2 was student films. Yeah. So the best student films from across the province were 1 or 2 days, and then the last day, one of the days was our student programming from that year. Then the third weekend was our, I think, Best of Festival. Yeah. And then our fourth weekend was our regular festival week. So we had International Block Friday, Saturday. Then Sunday we played our award show. And I wanted, like, this team is so creative that we have. On the last day, instead of just playing a video, because you think of an awards video, you're just watching a number of people give acceptance speeches, right? Because you can't do much. So we challenged our other creative partners. So McMichael Art Gallery, shout out to Angela and the whole team there. And Art and Soul Dance Company, shout out to Stephanie, Andrea, and Tony Viola. And we created a musical performance. So we took their top 2, I don't want to say top 2, but 2 of their best dancers, Tristan and Victoria, and we told a story about two dancers during the pandemic that had been pulled apart.
Oh.
Because if you think of the pandemic, you can't dance anymore. You can't be around another individual. And it's going to affect dancers more than anyone else because they're so used to being together.
Both.
So we took these two dancers, we separated them, and we had them tell their own stories through the power of dance and music.
Wow.
So they went, and we leveraged our partnership with Tourism Vaughan, where we had the ability to shoot at Vaughan Mills, the outside of Vaughan Mills. We shot inside McMichael Art Gallery. We shot at Vellore Village Park. So we highlighted some of the assets that the community had while telling this story, story about two creatives being drifted apart through the power of film and dance and music. So that was our story. So we shot a short film, arguably. And in between each performance, we went into the nominees.
Oh, wow. That's
so if an artist was dealing with the struggle of not being around the other artist, he would do a dance performance, let's say at Vaughan Mills, then we would cut away and we'd go, and the nominees for Best Actor are, then we would dive into that. So we did a tremendous job. It was about, I want to say about 45 minutes, an hour long.
Nice.
The catering was done by the Terrace. So you're in there watching this compelling story, and we surprised everyone with this 5-minute amazing fireworks show. So if you look at our history of VFF video, it always ends with this fireworks show. We wrapped up the video. We wrapped up the thing with that. So actually, cool thing we did, the two dancers that were in that film were in cars at the drive-in.
Oh.
We pre-shot them showing up to the drive-in together at the end of this story.
Nice.
So the two of them show up and they don't see each other yet, but then when they acknowledge each other, because we're getting out of the pandemic now, they get out, they run in front live, they get out of the vehicles. We cut to a live. I think the screen went black because we wanted them to all focus on. They went in front of the drive-in screen and they did the last dance number in front of everyone. And then as they ran to the back to draw everyone's attention, there was a 5-minute fireworks show that happened.
That's so cool.
It was, if you want to talk about one of the most rewarding experiences from the festival standpoint, it was getting that.
Good for you for producing that.
Thank you. It was that. It was a lot of work, but it was worth it for sure.
Wow. Thank you so much for this amazing conversation.
Of course.
Learning where VFF come from, your stories, and what he had been through, and what we're watching this year.
Thank you, yeah.
Any parting thoughts that you have for our listeners as a filmmaker, as a creative, as an entrepreneur?
I would suggest a parting thought to any creatives out there is try to navigate that as best as you can and understand that both are indicative to one another, and try balancing that out to the best, like I said, of your ability. And then the other piece is just keep creating. Keep creating. Create. James Cameron has the best piece of advice is pick up the camera and start shooting. Stop overthinking it, pick up the camera and start shooting.
Just do it.
And then while you're doing that, again, the other side to it is how do we navigate this to keep it sustainable? Where's the business side of it, and how do we make sure that keeps everything else afloat? But you got to start by creating. So, that would be my advice.
That's a wrap for today's episode of Be Brilliant with Jing Lang. We hope you found valuable insights and motivation to fuel your journey. Be sure to like and subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube. And share this with 3 people in your life endeavoring to achieve personal greatness. Remember, brilliance is within you, and every step you take brings you closer to your best self. Keep striving, keep shining, and until next time, stay brilliant.